The envelope sat on the kitchen counter for 3 days before I finally opened it. I knew what it was. I could see the return address through the window of the paper. The law firm. The final signature. 27 years, reduced to a stack of papers that would make it official. I was about to become a divorced woman at 53 years old. My hand shook as I held the envelope. Not because I was sad. Not anymore. I'd cried all my tears 2 years ago when Richard told me he'd found someone else. Someone younger, he said. Someone who still knew how to have fun. I was shaking because I was terrified. Terrified of what came next. Terrified of being alone. Terrified that maybe Richard was right, and I really had forgotten how to live. Before we continue, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and tell us where you are watching from. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. I set the envelope down and walked to the window. Outside, the autumn leaves were falling in my backyard, covering the grass in shades of gold and red, beautiful and dying at the same time. That's when I heard the knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My daughter Sarah lived 4 hours away with her own family now. My son Michael had moved to Seattle for work. The neighbors kept their distance ever since the divorce became neighborhood gossip. I opened the door and there he stood, a man I'd never seen before. Tall, maybe late 50s, with gray in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that looked like they came from smiling. He wore a simple jacket and jeans, and he was holding a small notebook. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said quietly. His voice was gentle, the kind that didn't demand anything. "I'm Thomas. I just moved in 2 doors down. The blue house." I nodded, waiting. "I'm trying to find a good school in the area," he continued. "For my daughter. She's 8. Someone at the grocery store said you used to be a teacher. That you might know which one would be best." I blinked. No one had asked me for advice in a very long time. Yes, I managed. I taught for 30 years. Elementary school. He smiled then. A real smile that reached his eyes. "Would you mind if I asked you a few questions? I know it's sudden. I can come back another time if—" "No," I said, and I surprised myself. "No, it's fine. Come in." I didn't know it then. Couldn't have known. But that one moment, that one decision to let a stranger into my kitchen on a Tuesday afternoon would change everything. Because Thomas didn't just ask me one question. He asked me the question I'd been too afraid to ask myself. And the answer would bring me back to life. I made tea. It's what I always did when I didn't know what else to do. My hands moved automatically, filling the kettle, pulling down 2 cups from the cabinet. The kind of automatic movement you develop after decades of the same routine. Thomas sat at my kitchen table, and I noticed he didn't pull out his phone like most people did. He just sat there, waiting, looking around my kitchen with genuine interest. "You have a beautiful home," he said. I looked around, trying to see it through his eyes. The same yellow walls I'd painted 12 years ago. The same curtains. The same everything. It all felt tired to me now. "Thank you," I said. "It's quiet these days." "Quiet can be good," he said. "Or it can be lonely. Depends on the day, I think." I stopped mid-pour and looked at him. Really looked at him. There was something in his voice. Understanding. Like he knew exactly what kind of quiet I meant. I brought the tea to the table and sat down across from him. "Your daughter," I said. "What's her name?" "Emma." His whole face softened when he said it. "She's my world. Has been, especially since." He trailed off and I didn't push. I knew that pause. That space where painful words lived. "The schools," I said gently, steering back to safer ground. "There are 3 elementary schools nearby. Maple Grove is the closest, but Riverside has the better art program. Hilltop is smaller, more personal attention." He wrote notes in his little notebook, nodding. Then he looked up at me. "Which one would you send your child to?" "Riverside," I said without hesitation. "The principal there, Mrs. Chun, she actually cares. She knows every child's name. That matters more than test scores." Thomas smiled again. "That's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you." He should have left then. The question was answered. But he didn't move to go. Instead, he wrapped his hands around the teacup and looked at me with those quiet, thoughtful eyes. "Can I ask you something else?" he said. "And you can tell me it's none of my business." "Okay," I said, though my stomach tightened. "When was the last time someone asked how you were doing? Really asked and waited for a real answer?" The question hit me like a physical thing. I felt my throat close up. My eyes burned. "I don't." I started, then stopped. "I don't remember." He nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. "How are you doing, Helen?" he asked. Really? And just like that, in my kitchen with a stranger I'd known for less than 20 minutes, I started to cry. I wasn't a crier. Not anymore. I'd learned to keep everything locked down tight after Richard left. Crying felt like weakness, like proving that I couldn't handle being alone. But something about the way Thomas asked. The way he just sat there, not looking away, not trying to fix it, not telling me it would be okay. He just let me cry. I'm sorry. I finally managed, wiping my eyes with a napkin. I don't know why I'm. Don't apologize, he said quietly. Please. I took a shaky breath. It's been hard. The divorce just became final. Or it will be once I sign those papers. I gestured to the envelope on the counter. Everyone keeps telling me I should be happy. That I'm free now. But I just feel lost, he finished. Yes. The word came out like a confession. Thomas was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the edge of his teacup. My wife died 2 years ago, he said finally. Cancer. She fought for 18 months, and then she was gone. Emma was 6. She barely remembers her mother without the sickness. I'm so sorry, I whispered. He nodded. Everyone told me I needed to move on, to be strong for Emma, to start fresh somewhere new. So I did. I sold our house in Boston, took a job here, moved across the country. But you know what I discovered? What? You can't outrun grief. You can't outrun loneliness. It follows you. It lives in the quiet moments, in the empty spaces. Moving didn't fix it. But, he paused and I waited. But asking for help did. Admitting I couldn't do it alone. That's what started to help. Little by little. Day by day. I looked at this man, this stranger who was trusting me with his pain, and I felt something shift inside my chest. Something small but real. I don't know how to do that, I admitted. Ask for help. I've spent my whole life being the helper. The teacher. The mother. The wife who kept everything running. I don't know how to be the one who needs something. Maybe that's the first thing you need to learn, Thomas said. For what it's worth, you helped me today. Just by listening. Just by answering my question about schools. That was brave of you, opening your door to a stranger. That wasn't brave, I said. That was just. What? I thought about it. Lonely, I said quietly. I was lonely. And you gave me a reason to be useful for 10 minutes. Thomas looked at me for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He reached across the table and gently touched my hand. Just for a second. A connection. Then maybe we can be lonely together sometimes, he said. Emma and I, we don't know anyone here yet. And you seem like you could use a friend. Would that be okay? If I came by sometimes? Asked your advice about things. My heart was pounding. This felt dangerous somehow. Like opening a door I'd deliberately locked. But I heard myself say, yes. That would be okay. He smiled. Good. Because I'm terrible at making friends, and Emma's going to need someone who knows how little girls think. I'm completely out of my depth there. I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt strange in my throat, like I'd forgotten how. Little girls aren't so mysterious, I said. They just want to be heard. Really heard. Like everyone else, Thomas said softly. Yes, I agreed. Like everyone else. Thomas left an hour later, but something stayed behind. A warmth in the kitchen. A feeling that the air had shifted somehow. I picked up the divorce papers and, for the first time, I opened the envelope. I read through the legal language, the division of assets, the end of a marriage spelled out in cold, official terms. And I signed my name. Not because I was ready. Not because I'd healed. But because Thomas was right. You couldn't outrun the hard things. You could only walk through them. I put the papers in the return envelope and set them by my purse. I'd mail them tomorrow. That night, I slept better than I had in months. 3 days later, Thomas knocked on my door again. This time, there was a little girl with him. Emma was small for 8, with long brown hair in 2 braids and her father's thoughtful eyes. She wore a purple jacket and held tight to Thomas's hand. I'm sorry to bother you again, Thomas said. But Emma wanted to meet the nice lady who helped us find her school. We're about to go tour Riverside, and she insisted we stop here first. I looked down at Emma, and she looked up at me with serious concentration. Daddy says you were a teacher, she said quietly. I told her. For a very long time. Did you like it? The question surprised me. Adults never asked if I liked teaching. They assumed I had, or I wouldn't have done it for 30 years. I loved it, I said honestly. My students were my favorite part of every day. Emma considered this. Then she said, I'm scared about the new school. What if the other kids don't like me? My heart squeezed. I knelt down so I was at her eye level. Can I tell you a secret? I asked. She nodded. Most of the other kids are scared too. They might not show it, but they are. Everyone wants to be liked. So when you meet them, just remember that. Be kind, ask questions, listen when they talk. That's the secret to making friends. That's it, Emma asked. That's it. Emma thought about this very seriously. Then she looked at her father. I think I'm ready now, she announced. Thomas's eyes met mine over his daughter's head, and I saw gratitude there. And something else. Something that made my chest feel warm. Thank you, he mouthed silently. I just nodded. Can we come back and tell you how it went? Emma asked me. I would love that, I said, and I meant it. After they left, I stood in my doorway and watched them walk down the street, Emma chattering away, Thomas listening with his whole attention. And I realized something. For the first time in 2 years, I was looking forward to something. They came back that evening. Emma was bouncing with excitement. We saw the art room. They have real pottery wheels. And Mrs. Chin knew my name already because Daddy called ahead and she said she was excited to meet me, and there's a girl in my grade who just moved here too, so I won't be the only new person and… Emma, breathe, Thomas said with a laugh. Emma took a dramatic breath, then grinned at me. I liked it. I'm so glad, I said. Thomas was holding a covered dish. We brought you dinner. As a thank you. It's just spaghetti, but Emma insists I make the best sauce in the world. Because you do, Daddy, Emma said with absolute certainty. I couldn't, I started. Please, Thomas said. You've already done so much. Let us do this one small thing. I looked at them standing on my porch, this father and daughter who'd appeared in my life less than a week ago, and I felt that dangerous door in my chest opening wider. Okay, I said. Thank you. Emma clapped her hands together. Can we eat with you? Daddy says it's rude to invite ourselves, but I really want to hear about when you were a teacher and what kids were like and… Emma, Thomas said gently. But I was already smiling. I would love the company. We sat at my kitchen table, the three of us, and ate spaghetti. Emma asked 1,000 questions, barely pausing to take bites. What were my favorite students like? Did I ever have students who were scared? Did I ever have students who couldn't read, and then learned how? What books did I teach? Did I like recess duty? I answered every question, and something strange happened. I remembered why I'd loved teaching in the first place. It wasn't just the lessons or the curriculum. It was this. The curiosity. The openness. The way children looked at the world like everything was interesting and worth knowing. Thomas watched us talk, and he was quiet, but I could feel his attention. The way he noticed when I laughed. The way his expression softened when Emma reached over and touched my hand while telling a story. After dinner, Emma yawned hugely. Someone's tired, Thomas said. I'm not tired, Emma protested, then yawned again. Come on, sweetheart. Let's let Helen have her evening. But as they were leaving, Emma turned back to me. Can I come visit you again? She asked. Even when I don't have questions about school? I felt my throat tighten. Yes. Anytime. Do you promise? I promise. Emma hugged me then, quick and fierce, and then ran down the porch steps. Thomas lingered in the doorway. She doesn't usually warm up to people that fast, he said quietly. She's been so closed off since her mother died. But with you, I don't know. She feels safe. She's a wonderful girl, I said. She is. And you're wonderful with her. He paused. I know this is fast. We barely know each other. But would you want to have coffee sometime? Just us. Without me using my daughter as an excuse to see you. My heart stopped. Then started again faster. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't been asked on a date in over 30 years. I didn't even know if this was a date. Maybe he just meant as friends. Maybe. I'm asking you out, Thomas said gently, reading my panic. Properly. Because I think you're interesting and kind, and I'd like to get to know you better. But if that's too much, too soon, I understand. We can stay neighbors. Friends. Whatever you're comfortable with. I looked at this man. This kind, patient, grieving man who'd lost his wife and moved across the country with his daughter. Who'd knocked on my door asking about schools and somehow seen past my walls. Coffee sounds nice, I heard myself say. His smile was like sunrise. Yeah. Saturday afternoon? There's a cafe downtown, Alice's Place. Do you know it? I knew it. Richard and I used to go there, years ago, before everything fell apart. I know it, I said. Saturday afternoon. I changed my outfit 4 times Saturday morning. Everything looked wrong. Too old. Too young. Too formal. Too casual. I stood in front of my closet feeling completely ridiculous. I was 53 years old, not a teenager getting ready for prom. But my hands were shaking. Finally, I chose simple. A soft blue sweater and jeans. Minimal makeup. My hair down. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. I looked nervous. Alive. Terrified. I looked like someone about to take a risk. Alice's place was exactly as I remembered. Small tables, warm lighting, the smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon. Thomas was already there, sitting by the window, and he stood when he saw me. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I managed. We sat down, and for a moment, neither of us knew what to say. Then we both started talking at once, stopped, laughed. "You first," Thomas said. "I was just going to say I haven't done this in a very long time," I admitted. "Me neither. I keep thinking Beth is going to walk through the door and ask me what I'm doing." He said it with a small smile, but I could hear the grief underneath. "Do you still love her?" I asked quietly. Thomas looked surprised by the question, then thoughtful. "I'll always love her," he said. "She was my wife for 15 years. Emma's mother. But she's gone. And before she died, she made me promise something." "What?" "That I wouldn't stop living. That I would find happiness again. That I would let Emma see what love looks like, even if it wasn't with her mother." His voice was rough. It was the hardest promise I ever made, because it felt like betraying her moving on. "But it wasn't," I said softly. "No, it wasn't. It was honoring her. Honoring what she wanted for me and Emma." He looked at me directly. "I'm telling you this because I don't want there to be confusion. I'm not looking for a replacement for Beth. I'm not trying to fill a hole. I'm just trying to live again. And when I met you, something in me woke up. Something I thought was gone forever. My eyes were burning again. I don't know if I'm ready for this." "I don't know if I am either," Thomas said. "But maybe we can be not ready together. Maybe we can just take it one day at a time. One coffee at a time." I thought about the divorce papers I'd mailed 3 days ago. The end of one chapter. The terrifying blankness of the next page. "One coffee at a time," I repeated. "I think I can do that." Thomas smiled. "Good. Because I ordered you the cinnamon latte. The barista said it's the best thing on the menu." "How did you know I like cinnamon?" "I didn't. But you have cinnamon candles in your kitchen." I took a chance. The fact that he'd noticed. The fact that he'd remembered. The fact that he'd cared enough to try. It made something crack open in my chest. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about growing up in Boston, about meeting Beth in college, about Emma's birth and those early chaotic years of parenting. He told me about Beth's diagnosis, the treatments, the hope that kept shrinking until it disappeared completely. I told him about my marriage. The slow erosion of connection. The way Richard had slowly stopped seeing me until I'd become invisible in my own home. The shock of the affair. The humiliation. The relief, underneath the pain, when he finally left. "Why relief?" Thomas asked. I'd never admitted this to anyone. Because I'd been lonely for years. At least when he left, I could stop pretending I wasn't. Thomas reached across the table and took my hand. Not romantically. Just connection. Human warmth. "You're not invisible, Helen," he said. "You're not even close to invisible." I looked at our hands, his covering mine, and I let myself feel it. Let myself believe it, just for a moment. We started walking together after that. Every evening, after Emma was in bed and Thomas's mother, who'd moved in to help with childcare, was settled in for the night, he would knock on my door. We'd walk around the neighborhood for an hour, just talking. About everything. About nothing. He told me about his work as an architect. The buildings he'd designed. The one he was most proud of, a library in Boston that Beth had loved. I told him about my students over the years. The ones who'd struggled and then soared. The ones who still sent me cards at Christmas. The ones I'd never forgotten. We talked about Emma, about how she was adjusting to school. About the grief counselor she saw every week. About the ways she still talked to her mother sometimes in her room when she thought no one could hear. We talked about my children, Sarah and Michael. About how the divorce had hurt them too, even though they were adults. About how Sarah called every week, but never knew what to say. About how Michael had stopped calling altogether. "They're protecting themselves," Thomas said. "That's what kids do no matter how old they are. They protect themselves from their parents' pain." "I wish they wouldn't," I said. "I wish they'd just be angry. Be sad. Be something other than carefully polite." "Maybe they're waiting for you to show them how," Thomas suggested. "Maybe they need to see you being honest about your feelings before they can be honest about theirs." I'd never thought of it that way. That night I called Sarah. "Mom, is everything okay?" Her voice was immediately worried. "Yes." "No. I don't know." I took a breath. I wanted to tell you that I'm not okay. And I haven't been for a long time. And I'm sorry I pretended I was. There was silence on the other end. Then quietly, me neither, Mom. I'm not okay either. And we talked. Really talked. For the first time in 2 years. About Dad. About the divorce. About how angry Sarah was that he'd thrown away our family. About how guilty she felt for being angry because divorce was common and she was an adult and she should be over it. You don't have to be over it, I told her. I'm not over it. I don't know if I ever will be. But I'm trying to move forward anyway. How? Sarah asked. How do you do that? I thought about Thomas. About Emma. About the way my life had shifted in just a few weeks. You let people in, I said. Even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. I love you, Mom, Sarah said. I love you too, sweetheart. After we hung up, I cried. But this time they were different tears. These ones felt like healing. Emma started coming over after school. It began with once a week, then twice, then almost every day. She'd do her homework at my kitchen table while I made snacks and helped with math problems. She'd tell me about her day, about the friends she was making, about the art projects she was working on. She'd ask about my life too. What I did all day. If I was lonely. If I missed teaching. Every day, I told her honestly. I miss it every day. Why did you stop? She asked, coloring a picture of a butterfly. I had to retire, I said. It's a rule. When you reach a certain age. That's a stupid rule, Emma declared. I laughed. Sometimes I think so too. You could teach me things, Emma suggested. Then you'd still be a teacher. My heart squeezed. I'd love to teach you things. Like what? I thought about it. What do you want to learn? Emma's face got serious, the way it did when she was thinking hard about something important. How to be brave when you're scared, she said finally. Mama was brave when she was sick. Daddy says she was the bravest person he ever knew. But I don't know how to be brave like that. Oh, this child. This beautiful, heartbroken child. I set down my tea and moved my chair closer to hers. Can I tell you something? I asked. She nodded. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the thing anyway, even though you're scared. Your mama was terrified, I bet. But she fought anyway. She loved you anyway. She lived every day as fully as she could anyway. Were you brave when your husband left? Emma asked. The question surprised me. I didn't know Thomas had told her about my divorce. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't think I was. I think I just survived. But I'm trying to be brave now. How? By letting your dad be my friend. By letting you be my friend. By opening my door when I wanted to keep it closed. By saying yes when it would be easier to say no. Emma considered this. Then she said, I'm glad you were brave. Me too, I whispered. She went back to coloring, and I watched her small hand move the crayons across the paper, creating something beautiful out of blank space. That's what we were all doing, I realized. Creating something beautiful out of the blank spaces. Out of the loss and the loneliness and the fear. One evening, Thomas came to pick up Emma and found her asleep on my couch, a book still open in her lap. I'm sorry, I said quietly. We were reading, and she just dozed off. Don't apologize. She's been sleeping better lately. I think because she feels safe here. He looked at his daughter with such tender love it made my chest ache. She lost so much when Beth died. Her security. Her sense that the world was safe. But you're giving some of that back to her. She's giving it back to me too, I said. Thomas looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something shift in his expression. Helen, he said softly. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? Right now, in this moment, are you happy? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Yes, I said, and I was surprised by how true it was. I am. Good, he said. Because you deserve to be. He stepped closer, and my heart started racing. I've been wanting to do something for weeks now, he said. But I didn't want to rush you. I didn't want to push. But Helen, I really, really want to kiss you. Would that be okay? I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Could only feel my heart pounding and my hands shaking and the fear and the want all tangled together. I'm scared, I whispered. I know, he said. Me too. What if I'm not good at this anymore? What if I've forgotten how? Then we'll figure it out together. He cupped my face gently with one hand, giving me time to pull away. To say no. To retreat back behind my walls. But I didn't. I leaned in. And when his lips touched mine, soft and careful and sweet, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt cherished. The kiss was brief. Tender. A question and an answer all at once. When we pulled apart, Thomas was smiling. I've been thinking about that for 3 weeks, he admitted. Was it worth the wait? I asked, my voice shaky. So worth it. On the couch, Emma stirred, and we stepped apart quickly, like teenagers caught by parents. Emma opened her eyes and looked at us, sleepy and confused. Then she smiled. Did you kiss Helen, Daddy? She asked. Thomas looked mortified. Emma. It's okay, she said, yawning. Mama would want you to be happy. She told me that. Before she went to heaven. She said you'd find someone new to love, and that would be good. My eyes filled with tears. Thomas's did too. Your mama was very wise, he managed. I know, Emma said simply. Then to me, do you love my daddy? The question hung in the air. Too big. Too soon. Too honest. I think I'm starting to, I said carefully. Is that okay with you? Emma thought about it with her usual seriousness. Yes, she said finally. But you have to promise something. What? You won't leave. Even if things get hard. You won't leave us. My heart broke. For this little girl who'd already lost so much. Who was so scared of losing more. I knelt down in front of her. Emma, I can't promise that nothing will ever go wrong. That's not how life works. But I can promise that I will try my very best. That I won't give up easily. That I care about you and your dad very much. Can that be enough? Emma looked at her father, then back at me. Okay, she said. That's enough. 2 months later, Richard called. I was in my garden planting tulip bulbs for spring when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But the number was his, and after 27 years of marriage, some habits were hard to break. Hello, I said. Helen. It's Richard. As if I wouldn't know. As if his voice wasn't still familiar, even though I'd spent 2 years trying to forget it. What do you want, Richard? I heard you've been seeing someone. Sarah mentioned it. My hands clenched around the phone. Sarah had no right. She's worried about you. She said you're dating some widow with a kid. That it's serious. His wife died, Richard. That's not the same as divorce. And yes, I'm seeing someone. That's not your business anymore. You're 53 years old, Helen. Don't you think you're a little old to be playing happy family with someone else's child? The words hit like a slap. For a moment, I was back in that place. That small, hurt place where I believed him. Where I thought maybe he was right, maybe I was too old, too boring, too late. But then I thought about Thomas. About the way he looked at me like I was beautiful. About Emma, who'd asked me to help her with her art project tomorrow. About the life I was building piece by piece from the rubble of the old one. You know what, Richard? I said, my voice steady. I don't care what you think. Not anymore. You made your choice. You chose someone younger, someone more exciting. I hope she makes you happy. But I'm choosing my own happiness now. And you don't get a vote. Helen. Goodbye, Richard. I hung up. And then I sat down in the dirt of my garden and shook. Not because I was sad, but because I'd done it. I'd stood up to him. I'd chosen myself. That's where Thomas found me 20 minutes later. Emma said you were gardening, he said, then saw my face. What happened? I told him about Richard's call. About what he'd said. About how I'd responded. Thomas sat down in the dirt next to me, not caring about his clean jeans. I'm proud of you, he said. Are you? Because part of me wonders if he's right. If I'm kidding myself. If I'm too old for this, for us four. Thomas took my dirty, shaking hands in his. Listen to me, he said firmly. You are not too old. You are not too anything. You are exactly who you're supposed to be, and I am so damn lucky that you opened your door that day. That you said yes to coffee. That you let me and Emma into your life. But what if? No, he said. No what ifs. I spent 2 years living in what ifs after Beth died. What if I'd noticed the symptoms earlier? What if we'd tried a different treatment? What if? It nearly destroyed me. The only thing that saved me was choosing to live in what is. And what is, Helen, is that I'm falling in love with you. And I think you might be falling in love with me too. And that's scary as hell, but it's also real. It's happening. And your ex-husband doesn't get to take that away from you. I am, I whispered. Falling in love with you. It terrifies me. Good, Thomas said. Because it terrifies me too. But let's be terrified together. He kissed me then, there in the garden, with dirt on our hands and tulip bulbs waiting to be planted. He kissed me like I was precious. Like I was chosen. Like I was enough. That night, I called Sarah back. You told your father about Thomas, I said without preamble. Mom, Why? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Because I was confused. And angry. And I wanted him to know that you were moving on. That you were okay without him. You wanted to hurt him, I said softly. Yes, she admitted. I wanted to hurt him the way he hurt you. The way he hurt all of us. I understood that. God, I understood that. Sarah, I need you to hear something. I love you. I will always love you. But Thomas and Emma, they're part of my life now. And I need you to be okay with that. Not for your father. For me. Are you really happy, Mom? Sarah asked, and her voice cracked. Really? I am, I said. For the first time in years, I really am. Then I'm happy for you, she said. I mean it. I need time. To get used to it. To seeing you with someone who isn't Dad. Take all the time you need, I said. But Sarah, Thomas is a good man. And Emma is a sweet little girl who's been through hell. They're not trying to replace you or your brother. They're just people who care about me. Who I care about. I know, Mom, Sarah said quietly. And I want to meet them. When I'm ready. When you're ready. Really. Really. You deserve to be happy. I just needed to remember that. After we hung up, I sat with the phone in my lap and felt another piece of the old hurt fall away. Emma got the lead role in her school's winter play. She burst through my door after auditions, not even knocking, her face shining with excitement. Helen! I got it! I'm going to be the Snow Queen. I scooped her up in a hug, even though she was getting too big for it. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Will you help me practice my lines? Please? Daddy tries, but he makes me laugh, and I can't be serious when he does all the funny voices. I would love to help you practice. Thomas appeared in my doorway, slightly out of breath. Sorry, she ran ahead. Again. I'm the Snow Queen, Daddy. Emma announced, as if he hadn't been there for the news. I know, sweetheart. You already told me. 3 times on the walk over here. It's important, Emma said with great dignity. Over the next month, Emma and I practiced every afternoon. We went through her lines again and again. I taught her how to project her voice, how to stand with confidence, how to remember her blocking. It reminded me of all the school plays I'd helped with over the years, all the nervous children I'd coached, all the small moments of triumph when they remembered their lines or hit their marks or simply made it through without freezing. Thomas would pick Emma up after practice, and more often than not, he'd stay for dinner. It became routine, natural. The 3 of us at my kitchen table, Emma chattering about school, Thomas and I exchanging glances over her head. One evening, after Emma had fallen asleep on the couch again, a frequent occurrence, Thomas and I stood in my kitchen doing dishes together. You're so good with her, he said quietly, handing me a plate to dry. She makes it easy, I said. No, I mean it. You're patient in a way I'm not. You listen differently. You see things I miss. He paused. Beth was like that too. She could read Emma like a book. After she died, I felt so lost. Like I didn't know how to be the kind of parent Emma needed. You're exactly the parent Emma needs, I said firmly. You love her. You show up. You try. That's everything. But I can't be her mother. No, I agreed. You can't. But I can't either, Thomas. I know Emma and I are close, but I'm not trying to replace Beth. I wouldn't want to. Emma needs to remember her mother. To honor her. I know you're not trying to replace her, Thomas said. But Emma's getting attached to you. Really attached. And I need to know you're in this. Because if you decide it's too much, if you walk away, it will break her heart. And I don't know if she could survive that. The weight of what he was saying settled on my shoulders. Are you asking me to make a commitment? I asked carefully. I'm asking you to be honest with me. And with yourself. Can you see a future with us? With me and Emma? Or is this just nice for now? I looked at this man. This careful, grieving, loving man who was trusting me with his daughter's heart. With his own heart. I'm scared, I admitted. Every day I'm scared. Scared I'll mess this up. Scared I'm too damaged from my marriage. Scared I don't know how to be what you both need. That's not what I asked, Thomas said gently. I know. I took a breath. Yes. I can see a future. I want a future. With both of you. It terrifies me, but I want it. Thomas set down the dish he was holding and turned to face me fully. Then let's stop being scared, he said. Let's just be together. Really together. No more holding back. No more waiting for the other shoe to drop. Let's just try. What does that look like? I whispered. I don't know, he admitted. I've never done this before. Built something new after losing everything. But I think it looks like this. Like honesty. Like showing up. Like choosing each other, every day, even when it's hard. I can do that, I said. Yeah. He kissed me then, slow and deep, and I let myself fall into it. Into him. Into the possibility of us. The night of the play, I sat in the audience between Thomas and Sarah. My daughter had driven 4 hours to be here, to see Emma perform, to meet the man I was falling in love with, and his daughter, who'd stolen my heart. The meeting had been awkward at first. Sarah was polite but distant. But then Emma, in full Snow Queen costume, had marched right up to Sarah and said, "Are you Helen's daughter? She talks about you all the time. She says you're brave and smart and a really good mom." Sarah had looked at me with surprised tears in her eyes. "She talks about me? Of course I do," I said. "You're my daughter. I'm proud of you." Something in Sarah's face had softened then. And when Emma grabbed her hand and pulled her backstage to see the set, Sarah had gone willingly, laughing. Now, sitting in the auditorium, waiting for the play to start, Sarah leaned over and whispered, "She's wonderful, Mom." "Emma, she's really wonderful." "She is," I agreed. "And Thomas seems kind. The way he looks at you. Like you're the best thing he's ever seen." My throat tightened. "He's a good man." "I'm glad," Sarah said. "I'm really glad you found each other." The lights dimmed then, and the play began. Emma was magnificent. She commanded the stage with a confidence I'd never seen in her before. Her voice rang out clear and strong. She hit every mark, remembered every line, shone like the star she was. And when she delivered her final monologue about how love melts even the coldest heart, about how letting people in is worth the risk of getting hurt, I felt tears streaming down my face. Because she wasn't just playing a character. She was telling our story. All of our stories. Mine and Thomas's. Hers. Sarah's. Even Richard's, in a way. Stories about hearts that froze to protect themselves. About the slow, scary thaw. About choosing warmth over safety. About letting love in again, even after loss. When the play ended and Emma took her bow, the entire audience stood and applauded. Thomas was crying openly, his hand gripped tight in mine. Sarah was clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. And Emma, my beautiful, brave Emma, searched the crowd until she found us. Then she smiled. The biggest, brightest smile I'd ever seen. After the play, we went to the little ice cream shop downtown to celebrate. Emma was still in her costume, too excited to change. She sat between me and Sarah, talking a mile a minute about the performance, about the applause, about how she'd almost forgotten her lines in Act 2, but remembered just in time. Sarah listened with genuine interest, asking questions, laughing at Emma's dramatic retellings. And Thomas watched all of us with quiet contentment, his hand resting on my knee under the table. "This is nice," he said softly just to me. "It is," I agreed. "It feels like family." I looked around the table. At Emma, at Sarah, at Thomas. At this patchwork group of people who'd all been broken in different ways, and were somehow fitting together into something whole. "Yes," I said. "It does." Winter settled in, and with it came the holidays. The first holidays without Richard in 28 years. The first holidays where I had to decide what new traditions might look like. Michael called in early December. It was the first time I'd heard from him in 4 months. "Mom," he said, and his voice was strained. "I'm sorry I haven't called. I didn't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," I told him. "I'm just glad to hear your voice. Sarah told me you're seeing someone. That it's serious." I braced myself for judgment. For more of what Richard had said. But instead, Michael said, "Are you happy?" "Yes," I said simply. "Then I'm happy for you. I know I haven't been around. I know I've been a terrible son. It's just seeing you and Dad split up, it made me question everything. My own marriage. My choices. Whether love even lasts." "Oh, Michael. But Sarah said you seem different now. Lighter. Like yourself again. And I realized I'd rather have you happy with someone new than miserable alone." "Thank you," I whispered. "That means more than you know. Can I meet him? And his daughter? Maybe at Christmas?" My heart leaped. Really? Really? It's time. Past time. After we hung up, I told Thomas about the conversation. "Your kids are coming for Christmas?" he said, looking slightly panicked. "Is that okay? I know it's a lot. I can tell them." "No," he said quickly. "No, I want to meet them. I want them to like me. I want them to see that I'm not trying to replace their father. That I just love their mother." I cupped his face in my hands. "You are not Richard. You are nothing like Richard. And they'll see that. What if they don't approve? What if they think you're making a mistake? Then they'll have to deal with it," I said firmly. "Because I'm not giving you up. Not for anyone." Thomas pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. "I love you," he said. "I don't think I've said that clearly enough. I love you, Helen. Completely." "I love you too," I said and felt the truth of it in my bones. Planning Christmas was chaos. Emma wanted everything to be perfect. She made elaborate decorations, insisted on helping me bake cookies, created name cards for everyone who would be at dinner. "What if Sarah and Michael don't like me?" she asked one afternoon while we were frosting sugar cookies. "They'll love you," I assured her. "But what if they're mad that I'm here? That I get to see you all the time and they don't?" I stopped frosting and looked at this perceptive, worried child. "Emma, can I tell you something important?" She nodded. "Love isn't a pie. You don't run out of slices. I can love you and still love Sarah and Michael. Loving you doesn't take anything away from them. It just means my heart got bigger." "Really? Really? And you know what? I think meeting you is going to help them understand that I'm happy. That this is real. That you and your dad aren't taking anything from them. You're just adding something beautiful to my life." Emma thought about this while she added sprinkles to a star-shaped cookie. "I'm nervous," she admitted. "Me too," I said. "Really? You're nervous?" "Of course. I want everything to go well. I want everyone to get along. I want my kids to see how wonderful you are. What if I mess up? Then you'll be human, just like the rest of us." I smiled at her. "Emma, just be yourself. That's all anyone can ask. And if you're yourself, they'll love you. Because you're pretty lovable." Emma grinned, getting frosting on her nose. "You're pretty lovable too, Helen." My heart squeezed. "Thank you, sweetheart." Christmas Eve arrived with fresh snow and nerves. Sarah and her husband Mark arrived first with their 2 kids, my grandchildren who I hadn't seen in months. Then Michael and his wife Jennifer. The house was suddenly full. Loud. Chaotic. And I loved it. Introductions were made. Emma was shy at first, hiding behind Thomas, but then Sarah's youngest, Lily, asked if she wanted to see her new doll, and the ice broke. The children disappeared upstairs, their laughter floating down. The adults stood in my living room, the awkwardness thick enough to cut. "So," Michael said, looking at Thomas, "you're the man who's making my mother happy." "I'm trying to be," Thomas said carefully. Michael studied him for a long moment. Then he held out his hand. "Thank you," he said, "for trying." Thomas shook his hand, relief clear on his face. Sarah was harder to read. She watched Thomas and me together, saw the way he pulled out my chair, the way his hand rested on my back, the way I leaned into him without thinking. Finally, while we were setting the table for dinner, she pulled me aside. "Mom, can we talk?" My stomach clenched. "Of course." We went into my bedroom, and Sarah closed the door. "I need to say something," she began. "And I need you to hear all of it before you respond. Can you do that?" I nodded, my heart pounding. When Dad left, I was furious. At him, yes. But also at you. I blinked. "At me." "Let me finish," Sarah said. "I was angry because I thought you'd given up. I thought you'd let yourself become invisible. I blamed you for the marriage failing, even though I knew it wasn't fair. Even though I knew Dad had the affair. I needed someone to be angry at, and you were safe. You wouldn't leave me." Tears were sliding down my face. "But watching you now," Sarah continued, her own eyes wet. "With Thomas, with Emma, I see it. I see what was missing before. You're alive again, Mom. You're here. Present. Happy. And I realize you weren't invisible because you wanted to be. You were invisible because Dad stopped seeing you. And that wasn't your fault." "Sarah, I'm not done," she said, smiling through tears. "I love you. I'm proud of you. And Thomas seems like a really good man. Emma is wonderful. And if they make you happy, then I'm happy. I'm sorry it took me so long to say that." I pulled my daughter into a hug, both of us crying now. "Thank you," I whispered. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." "I think I do," Sarah said. "Because I needed to say it." Dinner was beautiful. Not perfect. The turkey was slightly dry. Emma spilled her milk. One of the kids started crying over a perceived injustice. But it was real. It was family. Thomas's mother, who joined us, told stories about Beth that made Emma laugh. Sarah and Michael asked about Thomas's work, genuinely interested. The children played together like they'd known each other for years. And I sat at the head of my table, surrounded by the people I loved, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. After dinner, while the kids were watching a movie and the adults were cleaning up, Michael pulled Thomas aside. I watched from the kitchen, nervous. They talked quietly for several minutes. Then Michael clapped Thomas on the shoulder and smiled. When they came back, Thomas caught my eye and nodded. It was okay. We were okay. Later, after everyone had left or gone to bed, Sarah and her family were staying in my guest room, Michael and Jennifer at a hotel nearby. Thomas and I stood in my kitchen amid the aftermath of Christmas. "That went well," he said. "It did," I agreed. "Better than I hoped." Your kids are good people. They love you a lot. They do. And they like you. Michael threatened me, Thomas said, smiling. He said if I ever hurt you, he'd make me regret it. He didn't. He did. I appreciated it, actually. Showed he cares. I leaned against Thomas, exhausted and happy. Thank you, I said, for being patient with all of this. For understanding that it's complicated. Family is always complicated, Thomas said. But it's worth it. Yes, I agreed. It is. He kissed the top of my head. Merry Christmas, Helen. Merry Christmas, Thomas. Spring came, and with it change. Emma turned 9. I'd been with Thomas for almost a year. A whole year of slow, steady building. Of learning each other. Of creating a life together. We hadn't moved in together. It still felt too fast, too risky. But we spent most evenings together. Most meals. Most of our free time. Emma had started calling me Helen Mom. Not Mom. Not yet. But a hybrid that felt right. That honored both her mother and our relationship. My own children had warmed to Thomas and Emma completely. Sarah called him for advice on a remodeling project. Michael invited them to his son's birthday party. The families were blending, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And I was happy. Truly, deeply happy. One Saturday in April, Thomas asked if I wanted to go for a walk. Just the two of us. Emma was at a friend's house, and the afternoon was beautiful, warm with the promise of summer. We walked to the park, to the bench by the pond where we'd had our third date. Where he'd first told me about Beth's final days. Where I'd told him about the loneliest year of my life. I've been thinking, Thomas said as we sat down. About what? About us. About the future. About what I want. My heart started beating faster. Okay. This past year has been the happiest I've been since Beth died. You've given me and Emma something I thought we'd lost forever. Hope. Joy. A sense of family. You've given me that too, I said softly. I know we said we'd take it slow. That we wouldn't rush. But Helen, I don't want slow anymore. I want you. Fully. Completely. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to go to sleep holding you every night. I want Emma to have you there when she has nightmares. I want to be there when you talk to your kids. I want us to be a family. A real family. He slid off the bench and knelt in front of me, pulling a small box from his pocket. I stopped breathing. I'm not asking you to forget Richard, he said. I'm not asking you to forget the life you had before. I'm just asking you to build a new life with me. To choose us. To choose this. Helen, will you marry me? I looked at this man. This kind, patient, broken, healing man who'd knocked on my door asking about schools and had somehow become my everything. I'm 54 years old, I whispered. I'm divorced. I have adult children and grandchildren. I'm not young or exciting or... You're everything, Thomas said firmly. You're exactly what I want. Exactly what Emma wants. Age doesn't matter. Your past doesn't matter. I'm asking about our future. So I'll ask again. Will you marry me? Tears were streaming down my face. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on my finger, and it fit perfectly. Not too tight, not too loose. Just right. We sat on that bench and held each other, and I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The rejection. The loneliness. The fear. The slow, terrifying process of opening my heart again. And I thought about that first day, when Thomas knocked on my door and asked about schools. When he'd looked at me, really looked, and seen someone worth knowing. Someone worth loving. We told Emma that night. She screamed with joy, jumped up and down, hugged us both so hard I thought my ribs might crack. Does this mean you're going to live with us? She asked me. Yes, I said. If that's okay with you. Okay. It's the best thing ever. She paused. Can I call you Mom? The question hung in the air. I looked at Thomas and he nodded, his eyes wet. If you want to, I said carefully. But Emma, your mama will always be your mama. Nothing changes that. I'm not trying to take her place. I know, Emma said. But Mama's in heaven. And you're here. And I think she would want me to have a mom who's here. Who can hug me and help me with homework and come to my plays. Is that okay? That's more than okay, I whispered. So can I? Yes, I said, my voice breaking. Yes, you can call me Mom. Emma launched herself into my arms, and I held this child who'd stolen my heart, who'd taught me how to love again, who'd reminded me that family isn't just blood. Family is choice. We told my children the next day. Sarah cried and hugged me and said she was so happy for us. Michael shook Thomas's hand and welcomed him to the family officially. Both of them loved the idea of a summer wedding. Small, I insisted. Just family. Nothing big. Whatever you want, Mom, Sarah said. As long as you're happy. I am, I said. I really, really am. The months before the wedding were a blur of planning and packing and change. I was selling my house, moving into Thomas's, combining lives, possessions, histories. It should have been overwhelming, should have been terrifying, but it felt right. Emma helped me pack, carefully wrapping my dishes, my books, my memories. Are you sad to leave your house? She asked one afternoon. I looked around at the walls I'd lived in for 15 years. The kitchen where I'd cried over divorce papers. The bedroom I'd slept in alone for 2 years. No, I said honestly. I'm ready for something new. Me too, Emma said. I'm ready for you to be home with us. Really home. Home. The word settled into my chest like a warm light. Sarah and I went wedding dress shopping together. Nothing white, I said firmly. I'm 54. White feels wrong. How about champagne? Sarah suggested. Or blush. We found it in a small boutique. A simple dress in pale gold, tea-length, elegant without being flashy. When I put it on, Sarah started crying. Mom, you look beautiful. I looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. I did look beautiful. Not young. Not trying to be something I wasn't. But beautiful in the way a woman who's lived and loved and survived can be beautiful. I feel beautiful, I said softly. You are, Sarah said. And you deserve this. You deserve all of this. Thomas and I had one difficult conversation as the wedding approached. We were in bed, just talking, his arms around me in the darkness. Are you worried about anything? I asked. About the wedding? About us? Just one thing, he admitted. What? I'm worried I'll say Beth's name instead of yours during the vows. I stiffened, then forced myself to relax. Oh, it's not because I'm confused, he said quickly. It's not because I don't love you. It's just, she was my wife for 15 years. Some habits run deep. I thought about it. About how many times I'd almost called Thomas by Richard's name in those first few months. About how the past doesn't just disappear because you want it to. If you do, I said carefully, I won't be angry. I won't think it means anything except that you're human. That you have a history. We both do. You mean that? I do. Thomas, I'm not competing with Beth's memory. I never was. She was your wife. Emma's mother. She'll always have a place in your heart. And I'm okay with that. Because you have a place in your heart for me too. There's room for both. He pulled me closer. How did I get so lucky? Finding you. I ask myself the same thing every day. We lay there in comfortable silence, and I thought about love. About how it's not finite. How it expands. How there's always room for more. Michael asked to walk me down the aisle. I know it's not traditional, he said. But Dad's not. He's not part of this. And I want to be there for you. To show you I support this. I support you. I hugged my son tight. I would love that. Good. Because I already told Thomas I'd do it, and he said he'd be honored. I laughed through happy tears. Of course he did. The week before the wedding, Emma came to me with a question. Mom, she said. She'd been calling me Mom for 3 months now, and it still made my heart swell every time. Yes, sweetheart. Can we do something? Just you and me. Of course. What did you have in mind? Can we go to the cemetery? To visit my mama? I want to tell her about the wedding. And I want you to meet her. Kind of. My throat tightened. Emma, I would be honored. We went on a warm June afternoon, just days before the wedding. Beth's grave was in a beautiful spot under a willow tree. Emma had brought fresh flowers. We sat on the grass, and Emma talked to her mother like she was right there with us. Hi, Mama. I brought my new mom to meet you. Her name is Helen, and she's really nice. She helps me with homework and takes me to school and comes to all my plays. She makes Daddy happy. She makes me happy too. Emma paused like she was listening. I know you wanted Daddy to find someone. I know you told him to be happy. And he is. We are. But I want you to know I still love you. I still remember you. Helen says that's good. That I should always remember you. I felt tears sliding down my face. Emma turned to me. Do you want to say anything? I looked at the headstone. Elizabeth Marie Peterson. Beloved wife and mother. Thank you, I said softly. For loving Thomas. For giving him Emma. For making him the man he is. I promise I'll take care of them. I promise I'll honor what you built. And I promise Emma will always know how much you loved her. We sat there for a while, the three of us. Past, present, and future all connected. And I felt somehow that Beth was okay with it. With us. With this new chapter. The morning of the wedding, I woke up in my old house for the last time. Sarah was in the kitchen making coffee. Emma was curled up on my couch, still in her pajamas, watching cartoons. "How are you feeling?" Sarah asked. "Nervous," I admitted. "Happy, terrified, excited, all of it." "That's how you're supposed to feel," Sarah said with a smile. Emma came over and hugged me. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride ever." "Thank you, sweetheart." "Are you scared?" Emma asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "A little," I said honestly. "But mostly I'm just ready. Ready to start our life together. Ready to be a family officially." "Me too," Emma said. The wedding was in Thomas's backyard. Our backyard now. Simple white chairs. Flowers everywhere. Just family and a few close friends. Sarah helped me get ready, pinning my hair, adjusting my dress, dabbing at her tears. "You look perfect, Mom." "I'm shaking," I admitted. "That's okay. Thomas will be shaking too." Michael knocked on the door. "Ready." I looked at myself one more time in the mirror. 54 years old. About to get married for the second time. About to become a stepmother. About to start completely over. "Ready," I said. The ceremony was a blur of emotion. I walked down the makeshift aisle on Michael's arm, and I saw Thomas waiting for me under an arch of roses. He was crying before I even reached him. Emma stood beside him as his best person, holding the rings, her face shining with joy. The officiant talked about second chances. About the courage it takes to love again after loss. About family being built, not just born. And then it was time for our vows. Thomas went first. "Helen," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "A year and a half ago, I knocked on your door asking about schools. I was lost. Grieving. Trying to figure out how to raise my daughter alone. And you opened your door. You answered my questions. And then you kept opening doors. To friendship. To love. To a future I thought I'd lost forever." He paused, collecting himself. "You didn't just save me. You saved Emma. You gave us both a reason to be happy again. You taught us that love doesn't end. It transforms. It grows. It makes room for new people without forgetting the old ones. I promise to honor you. To cherish you. To choose you every single day for the rest of our lives. I love you, Helen. Completely." I was already crying. Then it was my turn. "Thomas," I managed. "When you knocked on my door, I was holding divorce papers. I was convinced my life was over. That I was too old, too broken, too late for happiness. And then you asked me the question that changed everything." I smiled through tears. "You asked how I was doing. Really doing. And you waited for a real answer. No one had done that in years. You saw me. You really saw me. And you kept seeing me. Every day. You made me believe I was worth loving again. You and Emma, you gave me a family when I thought mine was falling apart. You gave me hope. You gave me a future." I took his hands. "I promised to love you and Emma with everything I have. I promised to honor Beth's memory and teach Emma about the incredible woman who came before me. I promised to be patient and kind and present. I promised to choose this family every single day. I love you, Thomas. And I love Emma. And I'm so grateful you knocked on my door." We were both crying now. Emma was crying. Sarah was crying. Half the guests were crying. The officiant pronounced us husband and wife, and Thomas kissed me like I was precious. Like I was chosen. Like I was loved. The reception was simple. Food and music and laughter. Emma insisted on giving a speech. "I want to say something," she announced, standing on a chair so everyone could see her. Thomas tried to tell her she didn't have to, but she was determined. "When my first mama died, I thought I would never be happy again. I thought our family was broken forever. But then Helen came, and she didn't try to replace my mama. She just loved us. She listened to me and helped me and made my daddy smile again. And now she's my mom too. And I know my first mama is happy about that. Because she wanted us to be happy. So thank you, Mom. For loving us. For choosing us. For being brave enough to open your door." There wasn't a dry eye in the place. I pulled Emma into my arms and held her tight, this beautiful, wise child who'd taught me more about love than I'd ever known. Later, after the cake was cut, and the music was playing and people were dancing, Thomas pulled me aside. "Happy?" he asked. "So happy," I said. "You?" "Happier than I ever thought possible." We danced slowly, swaying to the music, and I looked around at the people we loved. Sarah dancing with her husband. Michael laughing with Emma. Thomas's mother talking with my old teaching colleague, who'd come all the way from across the state. "We did it," I said softly. "Did what?" "Built something beautiful from the broken pieces." Thomas kissed my forehead. "We did. And we're going to keep building. For the rest of our lives. Promise. Promise." I'm standing in my kitchen. Our kitchen. The morning light is streaming through the windows. Emma is at the table doing homework, occasionally asking me questions about fractions. Thomas is making coffee, humming under his breath. This is my life now. Simple. Ordinary. Beautiful. Sarah called last night. She's pregnant with her third child. She wanted me to be the first to know. Well, me and Thomas. Because he's family now too. Michael is coming to visit next month. He wants Thomas's advice on a project. They've become friends, my son and my husband. Real friends. Emma's play is next week. She's the lead again. She wants me to help her with her lines every afternoon. My life is full. Busy. Rich with love and connection and purpose. A year ago, if someone had told me this would be my life, I wouldn't have believed them. I was too scared, too hurt, too convinced that my best years were behind me. But I was wrong. My best years weren't behind me. They were just beginning. Because I learned something important. Love doesn't have an age limit. Second chances are real. And sometimes the best thing you can do is open your door when a stranger knocks. You never know what might be waiting on the other side. Hope. Healing. Family. Love. All of it. Thomas wraps his arms around me from behind, kissing my neck. What are you thinking about? He asks. Just how lucky I am, I say. We're both lucky. Yes, I agree. We are. Emma looks up from her homework. Mom, can you help me with this problem? Mom. She calls me Mom like it's the most natural thing in the world. And it is. Because this is my family. These are my people. And I am home. If you're listening to this story and you're going through something hard right now, I want you to hear this. It's not too late. It's never too late. I was 53 years old when my marriage ended. 53 when I thought my life was over. When I believed the best parts were behind me. I was wrong. The best parts were just waiting. Waiting for me to be brave enough to open my door. To say yes to coffee. To let someone see me. Really see me. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are not too late. Your story isn't over. It's just turning to a new chapter. And that new chapter might be the most beautiful one yet. So if someone knocks on your door, literally or metaphorically, asking for help, asking you a question, offering friendship, offering love, consider opening it. Consider saying yes. Consider being brave. Because on the other side of that fear, that risk, that terrifying vulnerability, there might be everything you've been looking for. There might be home. I set down my coffee cup and look at my husband. At my daughter. At this life I almost didn't have because I was too afraid. I love you both, I say. We love you too, they say together. And it's true. All of it is true. The rejection at 53 was real. But so was what came after. The quiet father who asked me one question. The question that changed everything. How are you doing, Helen? Really? And when I answered honestly, when I let him see my pain, my loneliness, my fear, that's when my real life began. Not at 23. Not at 33. At 53. When I finally learned that it's never too late to start again. Never too late to love again. Never too late to choose happiness. Never too late to come home. The end. Sometimes the best things in life come when we least expect them. When we're at our lowest point. When we think it's over. But it's never over. Not as long as we're still here. Still breathing. Still capable of opening our hearts one more time. Love doesn't care about your age. About your past. About how many times you've been hurt. Love just asks one thing. Will you let me in? And when you're brave enough to say yes, everything changes. Thank you for listening to Helen's story. To Thomas's story. To Emma's story. But really, it's your story too. Because we've all been rejected. We've all been hurt. We've all wondered if it's too late. And the answer is always the same. It's not. Your happiness is waiting.